People witnessed her tears on television. But they were just flashes. Behind closed doors, they were streams. Discreet collapses when the cameras were gone. Nights lying on the ceiling, questioning why she remained. Days when her children posed questions she was unable to reply with. Mom? Why is Dad treating us differently? Why are the others angry with us? It was a creeping, smothering fire. And each passing instant carried her closer to the breaking point. The breaking point didn't arrive in a soft whisper. It arrived in a battle. Loud, raw, and impossible to conceal. Coyote Pass, which had once been a vision, was now a battlefield. The land lay empty, unused, but still the cause of ongoing disagreements. Money had run out, promises had been broken, and the dream of unity had given way to resentment. Kody stood in the center of that property. One day, cameras in hand, his voice at a shout, he blamed the wives for disappointing him. He accused Christine of being disloyal. He accused Janelle of being unfaithful. He accused Meri of surrendering. And then, when all his fury had no outlet but outward, he took it out on Robyn. You're supposed to be my rock. You're supposed to stand with me no matter what. Why are you doubting me now? Robyn stood still. She had been silently bearing his rage for years, defending him to the world. But at that moment, something within her broke. Her eyes welled up with tears, but her voice was cutting, quivering with pent-up hurt. I've been with you through everything. I sacrificed everything for this. I stood up for you when nobody else would. And now you're turning against me. The cameras documented it, the crew fell silent. And for the first time ever in Sister Wives history, Robyn's allegiance broke wide open. Later that evening, the cameras accompanied her home. The scene was raw, unedited, and heart-wrenching. Robyn sat at the kitchen table, trembling with shaking hands as she clutched a cup of tea. Her kids moved quietly in the background, feeling the weight of the atmosphere. Kody wandered around the room, seething with rage. You don't understand, Robyn, he snapped. Everyone's betrayed me. Everyone's left me. And if you even begin doubting me too, then I've got nothing left. Robyn's eyes rose, brimming with tears. And then, for the first time ever, she uttered the words that had resided within her for years. Maybe that's the problem, Kody. Maybe you've already got nothing left, because you pushed everyone away, and now you're pushing me too. Kody stood still. He wasn't accustomed to Robyn speaking back. He wasn't accustomed to her unraveling. Not this way. And then the sentence that rang like thunder through the Brown family history. I can't do this anymore. I thought I could, but I can't. The silence that followed those words was deafening, louder than any fight. Kody did not take it lying down. He never did. He screamed. He pleaded. He blamed. He raged between fury and despair, his voice trembling as he tried to bring her back. You can't abandon me, Robyn. You're my only one left. You're going to be loyal. You're going to stand by me. But Robyn didn't waver. She didn't cry in obedience. For the first time, she didn't gentle her voice to soothe him. She sat crying, tears streaming down her face, but her will intact. I've stood with you for more than a decade. I've taken your side when the entire world was against you. But I won't stand by a man who won't even acknowledge what he's done to us. It was the most compelling moment of the season, perhaps of the whole series. The wife who was never meant to depart, the devoted protector, the favorite, had at last declared her truth. What made the breaking point additionally tragic was how Robyn's kids responded. For years they had watched their mother cry, defend and bend herself for Kody. They had seen the fights, the tension, the favoritism that made them targets. And now hearing their mother say, I can't do this anymore, wasn't just a shock. It was a relief. Her oldest daughter hugged her tightly, whispering, It's okay, Mom, we'll be okay. Her sons sat in stunned silence, their eyes wide, absorbing the fact that even their mother, the never-faltering woman, was finished. It wasn't merely Robyn crumbling. It was the entire family finally acknowledging what they'd understood for so long. This wasn't love. It was survival. When the incident aired, viewers were left reeling. Social media went wild in shock. Robyn said she can't do this anymore. I never thought to ever hear her say that. If even Robyn has hit her breaking point, then Kody has really lost everything. That sentence was the end of the whole series. The audience rewound the scene repeatedly, the shaking in her voice, the tears streaming down her face, the look on Kody's face changing from rage to panic. It wasn't just television. It was history. The moment the Brown family dream collapsed on national TV. After those words, nothing was the same. Kody tried to repair it, tried to convince Robyn to take it back. But once words like that are spoken, they can't be undone. Robyn had crossed a line she had never crossed before, and in crossing it she changed everything. She wasn't just Kody's faithful wife any longer. She was the lady who'd said, out loud, that she couldn't live this way. The cracks had developed into a shatter, and the shatter couldn't be reversed. The breaking point wasn't merely a battle, it was metaphorical. It was Christine's fury, Janelle's autonomy, and Meri's silence, all condensed into one moment. It was all the unexpressed thoughts, all the hidden tears, all the stifled screams, finally coming to the forefront. It was the moment the Brown family's narrative shifted from perhaps we can repair this to this is it. And it was Robyn, the least likely one to go, who brought about the coup de grace. Fans will in retrospect think of this moment not only as a turning point, but as the greatest lesson, that however loyal you may be, however much you sacrifice, however much you stand up for someone, there is a point when even the strongest one says, enough. Robyn's point of breaking wasn't weakness. It was strength. The strength to acknowledge that she couldn't do it any longer. The strength to leave the pedestal that had taken over her life. And with those 3 words, I can't do this anymore, the Brown family saga came to an end. The flashpoint had passed and returned. Robyn had uttered the words no one believed she would ever utter. And once those words were out of her mouth, I can't do this anymore, something could not be undone. Kody Brown, the self-proclaimed proud patriarch of America's most well-known polygamist clan, was left staring into space. No wives, no harmony, no respect, no family kingdom. Just emptiness. This is the tale of a man left behind, and the wreckage he never expected to encounter. For the first time in decades, Kody was all alone. Consider this, since he was a young man, he had never known life without women at home. Meri first, and then Janelle, then Christine, and lastly Robyn. His whole grown-up life, surrounded by the din of wives, kids, and mayhem. Now, quiet, no footsteps, no giggling, no shouting, only empty walls and echoes of what once was. The cameras caught it, a man sitting at the kitchen table, looking at a cold cup of coffee, his shoulders hunched, his hair disheveled, his eyes blank, a man unaccustomed to aloneness, but now buried by it. Kody had yelled for years about loyalty. Now he had none. In his mind, he hadn't lost wives. He had been betrayed. Christine betrayed him by leaving for another man. Janelle betrayed him by opting for independence over obedience. Meri betrayed him by surrendering after years of estrangement. And now Robyn, his faithful soulmate, had betrayed him by telling him she couldn't take it anymore. But here's the thing. Betrayal wasn't what shattered him. His pride was. Kody had constructed his entire self on being the patriarch, the leader, the one who was in charge. He referred to himself as the shepherd of his family. He referred to his wives as his flock. But when the flock got lost, the shepherd was left yelling into the wind. And rather than own up to his defeats, he looked inward in rage, blaming everyone but himself. Maybe the worst cut of all wasn't the wives. It was the children. Out of his 18 kids, many had already turned away. Garrison and Gabriel had clashed with him so fiercely they barely spoke. Isabel still carried the pain of her scoliosis surgery, a surgery Kody didn't attend. Even Leon, Meri's only child, had walked their own path far from their father. And now, even Robyn's kids, the ones he adored, the ones he prioritized, began to question him. Dad, why is Mom crying all the time? One of them asked. It was a knife to his heart. For all his command, all his regulations, all his declarations of devotion, he couldn't keep the truth his children beheld with their own eyes at bay. Their father wasn't a guardian any longer. He was the culprit behind their broken family. And then there was Coyote Pass, the country that represented all Kody swore, and all that he did not provide. It was meant to be the future. A vision of houses one after another. A legacy for his kids. a kingdom of oneness. But now, nothing but dust and shattered dreams. No houses were erected. No foundations were put, just fields of land, lying as a mute witness to the downfall of the Brown family. It was referred to as the curse of Coyote Pass by the fans. That which had been hope had become the grave marker of the Brown legacy, and Kody, standing on the land, resembled a defeated general on a battlefield rather than a visionary leader. The aftermath wasn't private, it was public. For more than a decade, Kody had marched his family in front of a national audience, boasting about their cohesion, their passion, their power. He boasted about being a pioneer, the man who would prove America that polygamy was not dysfunction but love squared. But now, that image lay in tatters. The media headlines were savage. Kody Brown loses all 4 wives. The end of the Brown family. Sister wives saga collapses. Fans stormed social media, ridiculing him, tearing apart his arrogance, noting the irony that the man who once preached family harmony was now totally alone. For Kody, it wasn't heartbreak, it was humiliation. The whole world was witnessing his empire being destroyed, and he could do nothing to prevent it. But this is the thing, Kody did not accept it. Even as Robyn walked out, even as the other wives moved on, even as his children distanced themselves, Kody would not accept that he was to blame. In interviews he seethed. He blamed his wives for betrayal, for disloyalty, for selfishness. He said they never loved him at all, that they had conspired against him, that they had ruined what he had so painstakingly created. But beneath the anger, deep down, there was something more: fear. Because Kody Brown had never had to be alone, and now he was. While Kody lost his way, the wives prospered. Christine was remarried, radiant with joy. Janelle lived alone, resilient and unapologetic. Meri was remaking herself, forging her own way out of Kody's shadow. And Robyn, though wounded, finally found peace in prioritizing herself over his control. Each of the wives, in turn, took back power. And that was the greatest irony of all. The man who had once asserted power over them had none to give. It was the wives, the ones who departed, who emerged victorious. One scene, above all others, captured the collapse. Kody alone in the center of Coyote Pass, his hair whipping around him in the Arizona wind, his arms crossed, his face set in a hard expression. The landscape behind him empty and deserted. And at that moment, the symbolism was unmistakable. The land was his family, promised and dreamed about, and fought for, and now bare, just like him. The Brown family wasn't merely a family, it was an empire. A TV empire. A cultural empire. A legacy founded upon the notion that polygamy was viable. But empires never last forever. And this one came crashing down not from the outside, but from within. It came crashing down due to control, due to favoritism, due to pride, due to a man who couldn't grasp that leadership is not about power. It's about love. And now the empire was in shambles, its king overthrown by his own hand. So, there he was, Kody Brown, alone, no wives to stand by him, no children to love him, no empire to support him, just a man, deprived of all, standing in front of the one thing he had shunned his whole life: himself. And maybe that was the harshest punishment of all, for in the quietness, in the isolation, in the devastation, Kody Brown was confronted with the reality. He wasn't the victim, he was the cause. That night, following the breaking point, did not come with thunder. It came with the sort of silence that makes you listen to the beating of your own heart. In Flagstaff, morning rose over the Brown Hills, like a crawling curtain, within a home that had once reverberated with arguments, phone calls, and the cacophonous ensemble of a very public family. Only 2 noises were left: the quiet zip of a suitcase, and the smack of a door that had been opened and closed 1,000 times. But not like this. Robyn's hands did not tremble as much as they might. They lingered, firm, precise, intentional, folding sweaters, cupping framed photographs, only stopping when her fingers discovered a small wooden box at the edge of a drawer. Within a ring dish, a child's bracelet, and a folded piece of paper with a memory contained within. She didn't weep when she read it. She merely inhaled, exhaled, and allowed the moment to move through her, not around her. For years, she'd attempted to bypass. This time she cut through. In the hall, her children stood in wait, silent, watchful, watchful. They weren't hurrying her. They were protecting her. That's what occurs when children are raised in the arena of adult decision. Soon they end up being the bulwark. Their parents never managed to be towards one another. She left the ring dish on the dresser, not to make a point, but because it was part of the home, and the years they had spent there. She put her ring into the box, and shut it quietly. Closure without fanfare. A car door slammed, trunk open, suitcase in, another breath. And then before she went, she entered the living room one final time. The room was quiet. There are rooms that hold the memory of everything. The confessions, the arguments, the desperate negotiations. No one owns up to. She stood within that memory-laden quiet, and said it quietly, as if to walls, "Thank you for all you took from me. I let go of everything you took." Then the door clicked shut, after her. Not slammed, clicked. Like the sound a chapter makes when it knows it is finished. Kody woke up later than normal. Perhaps it was the exhaustion of rage finally burning itself out, or perhaps it was the body playing its trick on the mind, and doing what it could not, shutting down long enough to spare itself. He went for his phone first. Habit, old times. Looking for messages that could save him from the world. Nothing. He was in the doorway, and could see the half-empty dresser, the ring dish, the imprint on the carpet, where the suitcase had sat. He tracked the impressions out of the room, across the hall, past the photographs that once defined his existence. Husband, father, leader, pioneer. He stood at the window and observed the car glide down the street. No chase scene. No final monologue in the driveway. The end does not often look like the movies you imagine in your head. More often it looks like a taillight, disappearing around the corner. He wanted to call. He wanted to text. He wanted to utter the words that cover over gaps but never bridge them. "We can fix this." His thumb was poised over the keyboard. And then he hesitated. Not because he acquiesced yet, but because his head ultimately exhausted itself. The silence got the better of him. If you were seeing this as a season finale, this is where the soft piano would kick in, and the montage would roll. Christine in Utah. A bright kitchen. Laughter echoing off new walls that never fought one fight with Kody. She places 2 mugs on a table, hers and her husband's, and smiles with the kind of peace you can only wear when you quit running after permission to be happy. Janelle standing at a farmer's market, hair back, sleeves rolled up, discussing budgets and boundaries with the quiet confidence of a woman who learned the hard way that respect is the only love language that never goes out of style. Meri opening the door to a small business, flipping the sign from closed to open. The camera holds on her hand, firm on the glass. No shake, no hesitate. Reinvention is not boisterous. It is steady. Robyn driving. Not escaping. Driving face forward. Children secure. Phone off. Blue-green dawn cleanses the windshield. Her face is not victorious. It's clear. There is a distinction. Clear is power. Kody at Coyote Pass. Wind blown. The Arizona line a question mark of a horizon. No homes. No slabs. Just intent that never translated into fact. He looks at where he used to point and say, "Over there, we'll build." The sentence doesn't finish the same way anymore. Over there, we didn't. No judge slams this tale. No jury walks in. No bailiff calls for quiet. But the judgment comes nonetheless, handed by time, penalty and 100 unfinished conversation. On polygamy. It came to America marketed as love times. It finished as love divided, and duty delegated to wives, asked to submerge their needs for a man's vision. On control. Control is not leadership. Control is cosplay leadership. True leadership is service. Humility, responsibility. Being willing to say, "I was wrong" without the addition of "but." On favoritism. A pedestal is simply a prison with nicer signage. When one partner is placed on a pedestal above the others, everyone shrinks, even the one at the top. On loyalty. Loyalty is not tolerating harm. Loyalty is not suffering neglect. Loyalty is not silence. Loyalty is love's maintenance plan, not its damage cover-up. The verdict isn't harsh. It's accurate. The Brown family didn't disintegrate because it was polygamous. It fell apart because it confused power with love and attention with care. The first trip to the grocery, without texting a checklist to maintain harmony. The first meal where the dinner table is not a battlefield of negotiation. The first bedtime story that does not share oxygen with adult tension. The first session of therapy where she uses her name first, before mentioning her role. The first page of the journal, that starts out with today. I chose myself, without leaving anyone behind. Look, there is a lie that quitting is selfish. It isn't. Remaining and instructing your children that unhappiness is a suitable lease contract for adulthood. That's the selfish aspect. Leaving is paying tuition for the emotional literacy of the next generation. Robyn will still cry sometimes, not because she regrets leaving, because the nervous system needs time to believe safety is permanent. She will still defend him once in a while. Old habits don't evaporate. They fade out, like a song you've outgrown, but still hum in the shower. She will catch herself apologizing to no one, and then stop mid-apology. Progress measured in cut-off sentences. And she will laugh, nervously at first, then heartfelt. The way that people laugh, when they realize the sound is their own. Boundaries. Creep in houses the way ivy creeps on stone. A single tendril, and then another, and soon a wall is wrapped with something alive. The children request easy things that are anything but easy. Arrive on time. Don't have us pay for the things you regret. If you're angry, name it, don't aim it. We are not proof you won or lost. We are people. Some loves mend, some don't. That's not tragedy, it's reality. The narrative leaves off trying to create symmetry, and takes what can be had. Love endures in smaller spaces with fewer chairs, and somehow it's a better fit there. There is a scene, no photographers capture, because there's no drama in it. A man at a kitchen table with a legal pad, writing the words he's lived a lifetime avoiding. I am angry. I am lonely. I am wrong. The first sentence bursts forth. The second hurts. The third is a labor. He writes it, erases it, writes it again, underlines it. His pen hesitates over the fourth sentence, the one that can still alter the conclusion. I am willing. Will to call the children, and to listen more than he talks. Will to apologize without if. Will to cease to say they and to begin to own I. Will to sit with non-heroic results, only human. If he puts that sentence down, and believes it, there is another ending. Not the dream of old. Not the one on television. A smaller life, truer, where love is not a role, and family is not a plot, but a discipline he learns slowly and painstakingly. If he's not able to write it, the narrative is over. The horizon at Coyote Pass is only a line, not an approach. America spent 15 years watching the Browns, and seeing themselves, hope's blind spots, deals made in the name of family. People argued on blogs like relatives at a Thanksgiving table. Robyn destroyed it. No, Kody destroyed it. They all destroyed it. Perhaps polygamy was doomed from the beginning. But under the hot takes and hashtags, something quieter circulated. Individuals identifying with their own compromises. The show did what the best stories do. It held up a mirror and said, look gently. Some closed the laptop. Some called their sister. Some shifted a boundary in their house that same night. When a reality show does that, it has done more than entertain. It has endured. For a while the Browns were America's most infamous plural family. They sued, they moved, they rebuilt, they unraveled on film, in courtrooms, on earth that became metaphor. Their saga will be taught in media studies and gossiped about in church hallways, applied to sociology theses and texted about in group messages. Not because it was perfect, but because it was so human it couldn't keep its pose. And in the end, the morality will not be about polygamy, or reality TV, or even the Browns themselves. It will be about systems versus souls. Systems, family models, doctrines, brands, invite you to bend around them. Souls invite you to stand up straight in them. When a system asks for too much bend, spines break. This family learned dearly how to stand. Robyn returns once, weeks later, not to reclaim something, but to let it go. The land appears unchanged. She does not. She drives up to the fence and walks to the edge where the dirt shifts color. Sun bound to her skin, wind in her hair. One of those mornings in Arizona that seems like an honest conversation. She kneels, lays one hand on the earth, and recites a brief prayer, not for home, not for vengeance, for closure. She thanks the earth for the dream that once told warm nights apart. She forgives the dream for failing to endure contact with reality. She forgives herself for grasping so long. She forgives him for not being able to put anyone down easy. Not even a vision. Then she rises. When she goes back to the car, the horizon remains behind. That's how you know you're really going. The horizon remains where it should be. In the following weeks, a habit develops. The children check in on one another more. The wives, no longer sister wives, just sisters of a different sort, text tiny gestures of kindness, a recipe, a joke, a thinking of you. No alliances, no tribunals, no campaigns, just the quiet lives of women who weathered the same conditions. There are a few calls between parent and child. Some work, some don't. One lingers well after midnight, full of stilted silences and tiny confessions. It concludes on a boundary and an optimism. That coupling seemed unimaginable. Now it sounds like an adult. Everyone wants a statement, something PR-tinged, that speaks everything and means nothing. After careful consideration, we decided to go our separate ways. We are still committed to our family and respectfully request privacy. No statement comes, not because they forgot the lines, but because the lines are the issue. This family has already done enough. They don't owe anyone a final curtain call. What they provide in its stead are behaviors. Co-parenting calendars actually adhered to. Holidays reconstructed without games. Bank accounts sorted. Last names honored. Therapy bills paid. Boring work, sacred work. Normal once meant tiptoeing around, lying to yourself that the floor was all right. Now it means a meal where everyone sits down and no one schemes. A weekend that is for rest, not rebounding. A house that is small and somehow too large for the tranquility it gives. Robyn puts up a new picture in a hallway. All the people in the photograph, but not all together. Individual shots in one portfolio. It seems more genuine than any group photo they ever did. Take endings on their own terms. There is a way endings masquerade as failures. But endings are architects. They map out space where beginnings relocate. The Brown family didn't fail. They ended. And because they ended, people could begin again elsewhere. Better. Christine started a marriage that did not require her to audition for love. Janelle started a season where joy was part of the budget. Meri started a life where the first person she called every morning was herself. Robyn started a decade with a spine of a lighthouse. And on some vacant piece of Arizona land, there was a man sitting very still and making a choice about whether the next sentence in his life would begin with they or I. No gavel fell. No credits rolled across a perfect tableau. The camera held a little longer than usual. Long enough for the silence to feel generous instead of cruel. Long enough to understand that collapse can also be construction if you're brave enough to rebuild with different blueprints. The close of an age is never the close of the individuals who lived it. If you were editing the episode, this is where you'd cut a soft pan of Coyote Pass at dusk. Wind burning away the heat. A single stake in the ground with a worn ribbon around it. The music drops and then is silent. One sentence falls, soft and precise. When the dust finally settles, will Kody opt to be right or to be loved? Cut to black. Imagine this. The woman who remained loyal to Kody Brown, while all the other wives abandoned him. The wife he once referred to as his soulmate, his rock, his forever, finally packing her bags, slamming the door and leaving him alone in the emptiness of his own making. This is not a breakup. This is not reality TV gossip. This is the ultimate demise of the Brown family dynasty. For years the fans said, Robyn will never leave. She's too loyal. She's the favorite. And yet, in the dramatic season 20 finale, that's precisely what transpired. Robyn Brown, the final wife standing, left Kody, leaving the patriarch of 18 children utterly alone for the first time in his adult life. So how did it end up here? How did the man who at one time boasted to be the face of polygamy end up with nothing? No wives, no cohesion, and no remaining family to battle for. Let's dissect this. When Robyn joined the Brown clan in 2010, she was heralded as the new promise. Younger, softer, and intensely loyal, she was everything Kody desired. He divorced Meri legally just to marry Robyn, taking on her 3 children and making her his legal wife. It was a fairy tale at first. Robyn swooned over Kody. Kody fawned over her. He even publicly confessed that she was his favorite, causing years of bitterness from the other wives. But here's the irony, that favoritism became the very poison that killed them. By placing Robyn on a pedestal, Kody pushed away Christine, Janelle, and Meri, until all three of them left. Fans were sarcastically joking that it was no longer sister wives. It was just Kody and Robyn. For years Robyn stood up for him. She wept in interviews, pleaded for quiet, and attempted to keep together that was already broken. She was the one wife who would not depart. Now, she's the one who did. Retrospectively. The signs were all there. Robyn's tears weren't televised alone. They reflected her shattered spirit. Kody's fixation on control, constant bickering over loyalty, and resentment of his older children eroded her love. Coyote Pass, the family's dream ranch, turned into a curse rather than a blessing. It sucked up money, stoked battles, and was the emblem of promises that never materialized. And then the pandemic hit. Other families were brought together, but not the Browns. Kody's autocratic rules separated him from Robyn, making the house a prison instead of a partnership. Far from feeling loved, Robyn felt caged. Fans saw the way her body language changed. The twinkle in her eyes faded. The gentle smiles were gone. She no longer resembled the woman who used to think that Kody was her future. She resembled someone who was burdened with everybody's failures. For years everyone would ask, when will Robyn realize what the others realized a while back? And finally she did. All relationships have a breaking point. And for Robyn, it wasn't a single blowout argument. It was death by 1,000 cuts. She saw Kody lose the wives one by one. Christine in 2021, Janelle in 2022, Meri in 2023. Each time, Robyn wept harder, begging them not to go, pleading for the family not to die. But somewhere inside of herself, she was losing faith in Kody too. The breaking point was when she witnessed Kody's relationship with his children disintegrate beyond repair. Some of his sons cut him off. Daughters confronted him in rage and disappointment. Kody, rather than taking responsibility for his errors, lashed out. He blamed everyone except himself. And for Robyn, it was over. She saw that she wasn't wedded to the man she thought she was married to. She was married to the ashes of his pride. In season 20's last episode, the cameras captured the moment. Robyn, trembling voice, tears streaming, whispered, "I can't do this anymore. I thought I could, but I can't." Those were not angry words. They were words of surrender. The surrender of a woman who had yielded everything and lost herself in the process. Kody's response was volcanic. He screamed. He pleaded. He berated. But nothing succeeded. Robyn had decided. For years Kody marked himself as a trailblazer. The man who would demonstrate that polygamy wasn't chaos, but love multiplied. He appeared on national television, constructed an empire around the premise that a plurality of wives could coexist harmoniously. But the truth? It finished with him alone. All his wives gone. His children shattered. His reputation destroyed. Christine had found fulfillment with a new man. Janelle was flourishing in independence. Meri was regaining her self-esteem. And Robyn, the one he believed would never depart, had finally opted for freedom over devotion. Social media erupted. Followers penned, "If even Robyn left, then Kody must have gone way too far. This is karma. He placed her above everyone else, and now she's gone too." The end of an era. And that's exactly what it was. The end of the Brown family as we knew it. So what now? For Kody, reality is cold. No wives, no one family together, no one remaining to stand up for him. The man who was once dubbed the face of polygamy is now a man alone in his Flagstaff house, enveloped by quiet. It's the start of something new for Robyn. She is free for the first time in an absence of shadow of favoritism, free from the weight of keeping together a family that never wished to be held. She has her children, independence, and an opportunity to find herself again. And for viewers, it's the loss of a cultural phenomenon. Sister Wives wasn't merely a program. It was a glimpse into an existence that most of us had no idea existed. It was messy, unfiltered, painful, and impossible to forget. But this is the most important lesson. Robyn's departure wasn't simply the failure of a family. It was a reminder that even the most faithful individual can one day utter, enough. The Brown family drama is finished. The wives have gone their own ways. The husband has been left behind, and the tale that began in love multiplied has concluded in love divided. And now, the only question that's left is this. Will Kody Brown accept the end? Or will he attempt to rise again in a way no one can expect? It starts not with silence, but with the noise of a family disintegrating. Picture the Brown family household, once filled with smiles, children's footsteps, and the buzz of a polygamist ideal made real. Now, it's quiet. Too quiet. That is the silence of collapse. Thick and irreversible. And at the heart of it all, the woman that everyone vowed would never depart. Robyn Brown. To appreciate how much Robyn's departure weighed on her family, you must look back to the start. Back to 2010, when sister wives first brought her in as the wide-eyed new member of the Brown family. That was when Kody already had 3 wives: Meri, Janelle, and Christine. Life was crazy, but it worked. Or so it seemed on the outside. They all lived under one roof. Their kids played together. And Kody was the proud father who insisted polygamy was not dysfunction, but love times 3. And then Robyn arrived. Young, beaming, with a vulnerability that Kody couldn't help but fall for. She wasn't another wife. She was, in the minds of many viewers, the favorite from day one. Christine, Janelle, and Meri could sense it right away. The way Kody's eyes sparkled when he was around Robyn. The way he broke rules for her. The way he seemed to look for in her what he no longer looked for in them. For Kody, Robyn represented a new beginning. For the other wives, she was the start of the end. It wasn't too long before Kody took an action that rocked his family. He formally divorced Meri, his first wife, the woman he wed in 1990, so he could formally marry Robyn. Why? At first glance, so he could take on Robyn's 3 children from her first marriage and give them his name and protection. But under the documents, the symbolism was unmistakable. Robyn was now the legal official and by all appearances the favored wife. This legislation set off a ripple effect. Meri was crushed. Christine was outraged. Janelle felt even more estranged. And viewers at home started to whisper what the wives were too afraid to utter. Kody doesn't want 4 wives. He wants Robyn. From that point on, Robyn wasn't merely a member of the family. She was the centerpiece. Season after season, it became apparent Kody treated Robyn differently. He referred to her as his soulmate. He complimented her parenting. He visibly spent more time at her house than the others. And Robyn, initially she reveled in it. She stood up for him, remained loyal to him even in disagreements, and frequently broke down in front of the camera over her intense love for him. But there's a price that comes with favoritism. While Robyn won, she also became the villain. The woman who stole Kody away from the rest. She became the target of disgruntlement from fans. Wives resented her. Children sensed the imbalance. Robyn was no longer a wife. She was the dividing line between family harmony and disintegration. What nobody saw, or chose not to believe, was that Robyn was not immune to the breakdown. Yes, she was Kody's favorite, but that also meant she was his shield, his protector, and ultimately his hostage. She bore the weight of holding the family together. When Christine cried of being unloved, Robyn was present. When Meri battled loneliness, Robyn listened. When Janelle battled with Kody about respect, Robyn intervened. But no matter how much she worked at it, the cracks just got deeper. The other wives viewed her not as support but as part of the problem. And gradually, agonizingly, Robyn came to understand that she couldn't be both. She could not be Kody's favorite and the glue of the family. Here's what viewers don't ever speak about. Robyn gave up more than anyone knew. She sacrificed her autonomy. She sacrificed her right to make decisions independent of Kody. She sacrificed her public persona, being labeled the homewrecker, by viewers who believed she spoiled the equilibrium. Behind the tears, Robyn's face revealed the true reality. Her bright smiles gave way to tiredness. Her eyes frequently shone with suppressed tears. Her voice shaking in scenes where she pleaded with the family to end the fights. Fans believed her tears were manipulative. In reality, they were the fissures of a woman crumbling under the pressure of everyone else's expectations. Wives departed one by one. Christine went first in 2021. opting for independence and love outside of the family. Janelle departed next in 2022, fed up with being disrespected and pushed aside. Meri, the initial wife, eventually walked in 2023, after being emotionally abandoned for years. And in between, Robyn remained. She cried. She pleaded. She stood up for Kody. She was the sole wife remaining, the one who wasn't ever meant to go. She told cameras more than once, "I never wanted this. I never wanted a monogamous marriage with Kody. I wanted sister wives." But that's what she got. A monogamous marriage and not the fantasy she envisioned. It was a nightmare. Becoming the last wife didn't make Robyn stronger. It made her trapped. She was alone in a marriage where Kody showered all his attention on her. Not because he loved her, but because he had no other choice. She no longer had sister wives to split the workload. No supporter to rely on. No insulation between her and Kody's controlling nature. For years she had stood up for him, saying he was a good man, a good father, a good husband. But when the lights faded and the cameras went off, she witnessed the truth. Kody wasn't the man she believed him to be. He was bitter, enraged, and fixated on control. And she was his sole audience. And that's the reason why Robyn leaving was such a shock. Because for more than a decade, she was the loyal one, the protector, the favorite, the wife who would never walk away. Her tale was not about betrayal. It was about waking up. She understood that being the favorite would not necessarily mean that she was loved, that it would mean she was trapped. Her tears, her silence, her relentless efforts to salvage the family were all building towards this one moment. The moment when she finally uttered enough. And when Robyn left, it wasn't the end of a marriage. It was the collapse of everything Kody had constructed. Robyn Sake's exit wasn't a rash act of defiance. It was the natural culmination of years of unevenness, favoritism, and shattered promises. She was put on a pedestal the moment she entered the Brown household. And from that pedestal she was supposed to prop up a crumbling empire. Pedestals crack though, and even the most faithful break. And the irony is this, the woman who was never supposed to leave, ended up being the one who brought the whole Brown family saga to its ultimate tragic end. The breakdown of any family doesn't occur overnight. It isn't one fight, one tear, or one betrayal. Rather, it is 1,000 little cracks, imperceptible at first, silently spreading until the entire framework no longer supports itself. And for the Browns, particularly for Robyn, those fissures were omnipresent, even if she insisted on denying them. On the surface, people believed Robyn won. She was the favorite, the lawfully wedded wife, the one Kody spoke of in a flattering tone when the others were given short shrift. But nobody knew that favoritism incurs a sinister price tag. To be chosen was to be alone. To be loved was to be envied. And to be Kody's number one was to be the receptacle for all his rage, bitterness, and need for control. This is how their cracks came to be. The closed-door whispers, the on-camera tears, and the hurt that ultimately made Robyn utter, "I can't do this anymore." The world went on lockdown in 2020, and with it the Brown family's final straw of togetherness. Other homes united while Kody's dictates did the exact opposite. He strictly enforced rules, commanding loyalty from his children and wives. Christine pushed back. Janelle rebelled. Even Meri felt smothered. But Robyn, she complied. She was the only wife who abided by every rule, every dictate. And for that, she became the target. Fans blamed her for taking sides with Kody against the other wives. Her crying during pandemic years became legendary. Fans said she was playing victim, manipulating, controlling the narrative. But the reality was even more agonizing. Robyn was smothering. She wasn't being on Kody's side because she chose to. She was doing it because she felt like she had no other options. She bore the burden of his expectations, his paranoia, his need to control. And in attempting to appease him, she lost herself. Before the pandemic, there was Coyote Pass, the sprawling Arizona land that was meant to symbolize a fresh start. The Browns envisioned constructing houses side by side, living together again. But dreams were reduced to nothing. The land became a source of curse. Disagreements regarding money, possession, and building separated them. Kody pushed forward with a vision that no one else desired. The wives became frustrated, feeling ignored and forsaken. Robyn again attempted to broker a peace. She wept, pleaded for compromise, and stood up for Kody when the rest resisted. But in the depths of her being she knew the truth. Coyote Pass wasn't a dream, it was a graveyard. Each time she gazed upon that land, she did not envision a future. She envisioned a battlefield, a reminder of shattered promises and lost years. If there was one thing that hurt Robyn the most, it was the children. Over the years, Kody's relationships with his kids began to unravel. Janelle's boys, in particular, clashed with him. They accused him of neglect, favoritism, and control. Christine's daughters spoke openly about his absence. Even Meri's only child, Leon, grew distant. But Robyn's kids were treated differently. Kody loved them, favored them, and used them as a defense mechanism to justify himself oftentimes. Fans picked up on it. The wives picked up on it. And so did the kids. Robyn's children became tokens of favoritism, and that took a toll on her. She craved unity, but what she witnessed instead was resentment building around her kids. Resentment that wasn't their doing, but one they would bear for years. And Robyn was aware of it. By being the favorite, she was putting a bullseye on her children. One of the cruelest shattering of Robyn's life wasn't even within the house. It was on the outside, out there in the realm of fans, social media, and public opinion. Right from the start, Robyn was vilified as the villain of Sister Wives. She was the homewrecker, the woman who stole Kody from the others. Every tear that she cried was dubbed fake. Every justification of Kody was termed manipulation. Consider living like that. Consider having to justify your husband, your decisions, your family, and being met with hostility every time. Fans didn't just dislike Robyn, they hated her. And although she never would admit it, those voices reached her. With time, the criticism sank in. She started doubting herself, questioning if perhaps the world was correct. Perhaps she was the issue. As each wife departed, Robyn's solitude grew stronger. Christine was no longer there. Janelle stood aside. Meri quit. And now Robyn wasn't one of four. She was alone. At first, it does sound like a win. She had Kody to herself, after all. But in truth, it was the most isolated spot she could have ever been. She did not have sister wives to turn to, no friends to share the burdens with, no defense between her and Kody's outbursts. Alone, the pedestal Kody had put her on had become a prison tower, and she was trapped inside. The Kody Robyn married in 2010 wasn't the Kody she married in 2025. The man who once laughed, joked, and had big dreams had become bitter, angry, and paranoid. He blamed everyone but himself for the destruction of the family. He ranted and raved about loyalty, obedience, and betrayal, making every conversation a battle. Robyn attempted to be patient. She attempted to remind him of who he used to be. But the more she attempted, the more she came to see something horrific. That guy was gone. And if he was gone, what was she clinging to? Every marriage, every family has fights. But what made the Browns' breakdown so heartbreaking was how public it was. Millions of people saw it all. Each crack was enlarged. Each tear played over and over. Each confession analyzed. There was no privacy, no room to recover. And for Robyn, the cracks were too much. She had to be the favorite. She had to bear the resentment of the wives. She had to bear the weight of the children. She had to bear the hatred of the fans. And then, of course, she bore the knowledge that no matter how hard she worked, she couldn't repair what was already damaged. By season 20, Robyn's expression spoke louder than her words ever had. Her crying wasn't frustration only. It was loss. Loss of a dream. Loss of sisterhood. Loss of the man she believed Kody to be. And deep down she knew it. She wasn't happy. She wasn't loved the way she should be. She wasn't living in the family she desired. She was living in the wreckage of a man's pride. When fans witnessed Robyn step out, they deemed it sudden. They deemed it shocking. But to those who looked closely, the cracks had always been there. The tears, the fatigue, the bitterness, the resentment. The cracks had been propagating over years. Robyn had simply been too loyal, too optimistic, too afraid to confront it, until at last, she could no longer deny it. And that's how the silent cracks that nobody wished to acknowledge became the earthquake that destroyed the whole Brown family forever. Each of her tales of destruction has that one point when the tension breaks. For Robyn Brown, it wasn't merely a battle, an argument, or a dispute. It was a total shattering of spirit. The faithful wife, the protector, the one that had promised to stand by Kody no matter what, came to a point when her heart uttered the words that her lips were too scared to say, "I can't do this anymore." This wasn't a marriage coming undone. This was the moment the whole Brown family narrative hit its point of no return. Robyn. Quote, breaking point wasn't sudden. It took years to develop. Consider this, she saw Christine walk in 2021. She witnessed Janelle stand up for herself and walk in 2022. She saw the first wife, Meri, break away in 2023. And all while she remained. Not because she was blind, not because she was naive, but because she felt she had to. For years, she whispered to herself, if I leave, the whole family falls. And so she lugged the burden of maintaining Kody's world. But the more she lugged, the heavier it got.